It's time now for the award-winning #1 local talk show in Northeast Pennsylvania, The Sam Lesante Show. Now here's your host, Sam Lesante.
Well, folks, they've been around for over 20 years. We have the mental health court and we have the drug courts. What does that mean to us as citizens in Luzerne County? Do we really need them? And why are they so important, and what have they saved? Well, to give you an example, the drug court has, since 2006, has saved you, the taxpayers, $4 million. And starting in 2009, the mental health court has saved over $1 million. A lot to learn about it, folks. Just to give an example, drug courts sprung out of necessity. Over 20 years ago, when drug courts were born, the court system was in crisis. And we know today, folks, they're overwhelmed with a lot of these mental problems and drug problems. Joining me today, no stranger to Luzerne County, one of the finest judges we have, my good friend Judge Bill Amsbury is here. Joining me, Assistant DA Jim McMonagle and Dr. Bill Anzalone, who is a psychologist. Gentlemen, thanks for coming on the show.
Thanks for having us.
Sam, it's always a pleasure. Good to see you again.
The good judge. You're keeping things in order, Judge?
We're doing our best.
Yeah, and you know what? I think Luzerne County should be really thrilled. We got the court systems back. We got things moving.
The cavalry arrived in January. We're moving forward. We're working on those backlogs, both on the criminal and the civil side.
It's a good thing. It's refreshing, you know that.
And it's always a pleasure to be here with you and the residents of Hazleton and your viewing area. I always love the opportunity to spit and talk with you.
Well, this show today, I think the viewers are going to learn a lot. As I said, we saved a lot of money. Okay,
yes, we do.
So why don't we give me a little brief description of what the drug court and the mental health court, what does it mean, and we'll have the different gentlemen talk about their parts.
Sure. Let's do a little history first.
Good.
Back in 1976, the state hospitals in Pennsylvania had large populations of people who suffered from well-defined emotional disorders. Around that time, or earlier, I should say in the 1950s, psychopharmacology started to come into vogue. There were the development of new treatments via different types of medications, Thorazine, Mellaril, Haldol, Prolixin, just for example. As a result, many of these medications were able to control the symptoms or signs of a well-defined emotional disorder. At that same time, budgetary concerns did arise within Harrisburg. When you take the two and put them together, there was a strong emphasis for moving people who no longer needed inpatient care into the communities. And that started back in 1976. Unfortunately, too many people who came into the community who suffer from well-defined emotional disorders do not see themselves as being ill. And as a result, they stop medicating and they become more symptomatic and become visible in the community because of bizarre behaviors. At the same time they started this deinstitutionalization process, the legislature also made it more difficult for people to be readmitted into hospitals. Very candidly, this was a very humane concept at the time, which unfortunately did not get sufficient funding to make it a reality. So where we are some 40 years later is many individuals are in our correctional settings, whether county jails, state correctional institutions, on charges that are low-level misdemeanors, summaries, graded offenses, such as retail theft and prostitution. And what I think we have here going on in Luzerne County, and we're just a microcosm because this is taking place across the entire United States, is an opportunity to take people with well-defined emotional disorders, people who are addicted to drugs, whether it be heroin, cocaine, whatever the substance may be, restore them back into the community, give them the methods, technique necessary to turn their lives around, make them functional again, and hopefully people with jobs who, like you and me and all of us here, pay taxes. That, I believe, is a good opening into what we're doing now.
And I think the savings is one thing, but
Yes.
most importantly is the treatment that's critical, okay? I mean, the savings is a good thing, Jim, but I think right now is how do we help these people, okay, that have become addicted? In your case, in the DA's office, now what function does the DA's office play in this, Jim?
Well, for both programs, for both drug court or treatment court and mental health court, the DA's office is kind of like, could be seen as a gatekeeper. When the individual comes into the criminal justice system through an arrest and gets referred to one of the programs, I myself, for a treatment court or one of the other ADAs, Michelle Hardick, who's assigned to the mental health court, will review the case from a legal standpoint. There are certain offenses which are ineligible to participate in the program. For treatment court, nobody charged with a drug trafficking offense or a violent offense is eligible for the program, nor anybody who's charged with DUI offenses.
Okay.
Excuse me. So when we get the referral, Michelle and my job is to make sure that the person applying does not have any of those offenses, does not have any prior violent offenses, which also make them ineligible for the program. And then we also touch base. The DA's office has an obligation to speak with victims of the crime and the police officers. We also, if we don't have something already in the file, we have someone in our office or ourselves call the victim and or the police officers to get their input into whether or not this is an appropriate person for these types of programs. If the person is eligible, the victim and police officer are on board and looking more to help the person instead of looking to send them to jail. We then let the coordinators know that they're legally eligible. The person continues going through their clinical evaluation, whether it's for a drug problem or a mental health problem, and then the case comes before the team for a vote to determine whether or not the person is going to be a participant in the program or not.
Now, you said something that I want the public to understand, and correct me if I'm wrong. If you're selling drugs, okay, or if you're convicted of selling drugs, you don't get into this program.
No, our program is a pre-plea program.
This
So
is for
even if you're charged with selling drugs, right now in our program, you're ineligible for the program. And that includes anybody charged with what's called in Pennsylvania delivery of a controlled substance, possessing it with intent to deliver that controlled substance, conspiracy to do any of that. And there's a couple other offenses that encompass. One of the elements would be having to prove that they were involved in an organization or a scheme to deliver controlled substances. So those offenses are also ineligible.
So now, someone sells me drugs, I get addicted to it, okay?
Yes.
I need a hit really bad. I run down to the local store and I get $50 and go get a hit, okay? So I'm addicted to whatever happens. So I could fall into this program.
Yes, as long as when you robbed the store, you did not use a weapon or violence. Perhaps
Just give me your money or
perhaps you just went in and it was very, not to minimize it, but non-violent.
Right.
The clerk just readily handed it over. Or you just went in and you stole, some things off the shelf that you could immediately turn around and sell to someone on the black market to get a quick $50 to then go down to the next corner and buy your hit of heroin or cocaine or whatever it may be.
And I think, I think the treatment, this program, I remember we were talking about this way back when Commissioner Strepnak was a commissioner. He had wanted to, rehabilitate these people. So there's help for those people who are addicted, okay, but not for the bad guys who are making this happen.
Right. Our program is looking to help those who are addicted and or abusing controlled substances and drugs. The true criminal people, the violent offenders, the drug dealers who are really only looking to make a buck on somebody else's addiction are ineligible for the program.
It is such a sad problem we have today, and I think what's happening now, we're able to take these victims and give them help. Okay, in your case, Dr. Anzalone, we're going to get you're a licensed psychologist. We're going to get to you in a second, folks. I'm talking to Judge Amsbury, Assistant DA. Jim McMonaco has been there for 19 years, and we'll be talking to Dr. Anzalone, who is a licensed psychologist. We all know this is a very serious problem we have, but at least there's things being done about it. Stay with us. Thanks for staying with us, folks. I'm Sam Lesante. Remember, watch us 24/7 on SSPTV.com. And folks, don't forget, for the people on Service Electric Cablevision in the Hazleton area, our news now is at 4 o'clock live. 3 hours of news for you, 4 o'clock live. 5 o'clock we share it with KYW out of Philadelphia, and we're back with local news at 6 o'clock, of course, with our rebroadcast. Folks, the official water of Samson Productions, Tom Micken Mountain Spring Water. It's the official water of this is the water that Starbucks uses, folks. If they don't have this water where you buy your water, ask for it. It's Tom Micken Mountain Spring Water. And yes, folks, Dan Vasella, I'm buying my Mona V, my 2 shots every day. Since since Judge Amsbury has been using this, he's been having court. He's been able to work 2-3 times longer because it's making him feel better. The Mona V. Try it, folks. All seriousness, it's good stuff. My guest, Judge Amsbury, is here, and it's Assistant District Attorney Jim McMonagle and Bill Angelon, Dr. Angelon, who is a licensed psychologist. What are we talking about? We're talking about drug courts and mental health courts and what they mean. Just to stay with you a minute, Jim, tell us about our courts. They're overjammed, right now?
Yes, there's a lot of people in our court system, coming through our court system. Many of them have addiction or abuse problems, dependency problems with controlled substances. I've been to several seminars for treatment courts, and one of the people who I've heard speak a few times is of the opinion and has said that our jails and prisons are not full of criminals. They're full of addicts pretending to be criminals. If the person isn't addicted to a drug, and you hear this a lot of times, from family and friends, before he got on the stuff, before he started abusing it, he was a great guy, he was a great woman, he held a job, she took care of her kids, whatever it may be. They get into that addiction, and then their kids, their jobs, their family, their friends come a distant second in priority to satisfying that need for the addiction. And then they start doing things that they otherwise normally would not. They steal from family and friends. They walk into a Turkey Hill or a Rite Aid, CVS, and they steal things that they can turn around and sell on the black market for a quick $25, $50, and then go down to the next corner and buy their hit. So we're looking to end that cycle of people coming in, getting them the treatment they need, while still keeping a hammer over them. We don't want anyone to think that this is an easy program or it's soft on crime. I've talked to several defense attorneys who have told me, Jim, my guy's not going to take that program because it's too hard. When people first come into our program, it's estimated they spend upwards of 20 hours or more a week coming to court as required, seeing probation officers, seeing case managers, and attending their necessary treatment, whatever that level of care is set by the clinicians. And if they don't follow those rules and attend those proceedings, there are consequences. They can be as somewhat minor as writing an essay or community service for the community, up to spending a few days or a week in jail for violating the rules. And the ultimate sanction, obviously, of course, is being terminated from the program, at which time we bring them before Judge Amsbury and he sentences them in accordance with Pennsylvania law. Okay,
so how do they get into this program? There may be people watching right now that their families or friends may be in the system, in the courthouse, but is everyone who is who's commit any kind of crime was drug related, do they have access to this program?
They can apply to the program. The program is run out of our probation office.
Now, who applies?
The defendant, the person charged, can be referred by a police officer, themselves, their attorney, a family member if they know about the program. When they need to apply for the program, it's run out of our probation department. Kelly Cesari is the coordinator. They submit an application to her. A copy of that application then is sent to me for my review, the legal review, as I indicated in the previous segment. It also goes to our clinician side, because you have to be addicted or dependent on a controlled substance before you get into the treatment court. If you don't need treatment, you don't get into the program. So that's how the referral comes. We get the people. Unfortunately, you have to be arrested. Our program is not like we reach out to people who have a problem, and we know there are many of those who aren't in the criminal justice system. Unfortunately, the way our system is set up now, to get into this program, you need to have been charged with a crime and be in the criminal justice system.
Dr. Angelo, I'm going to get to you. Now, your part as a psychologist in the mental health court, what part do you play in this?
Well, the mental health court is slightly different than the drug treatment court. because we are treating individuals where their primary diagnosis is going to be a major mental illness, Axis 1 diagnosis, such as schizophrenia, bipolar disorder, major depression, post-traumatic stress disorder, anxiety disorders. They may also have a component of a drug addiction, but their primary diagnosis has to be one of the major mental illnesses. So our role is very similar to the drug treatment court, though. As Jim had mentioned, our jails are overrun by individuals who aren't necessarily criminals. They're individuals with addictions acting as if they're criminals or pretending that they're criminals. Our current Luzerne County Jail houses approximately 24% of their population with serious mental illnesses. So that's a large percentage of individuals that have the diagnoses that I had just mentioned, and our jails aren't equipped to treat them appropriately. They're able to manage their illnesses, but they're not able to force any treatment on them because of the way the jails are set up. So our program is a voluntary program. It's up to the individual that's arrested if they want to engage in the mental health court. And the goal of the mental health court is to take an individual with a serious mental illness that committed a minor crime, a nonviolent minor crime, out of the jail and into intensive treatment. And the goal of the program then is to stabilize them, get them appropriate housing, get them back on their medications, into appropriate psychological treatment, and hopefully at the end of the 2-year process, they'll be productive citizens and be able to manage themselves on their own.
You know, it's a disease.
Sure.
Okay, it's just like any disease, and I feel so sorry for people who are addicted, just like people who are smoking. It's an addiction, so they have to go through a process to stop smoking, or if it's alcohol or gambling, etc. So, yes, Judge.
Sam, you're exactly right, and for decades, people have always looked at this as being some kind of a reflection of a moral weakness on the part of the individual. It is not that. What it is, as you correctly stated it, is a disease of the brain. And addiction overcomes free will. For as many times as I've seen people who have come in before me, either as a magisterial judge or on the Court of Common Pleas, and they, from the depths of their soul, tell me that if I release them on bail, they won't do this again. From their heart, they're telling me the truth. But what they don't realize is they cannot overcome the addiction alone. And that's why I'd like Bill and Jim to talk about the treatment teams, who's on them, what agencies they represent, and how we get this done. Who are the people who are the facilitators in turning these people's lives around?
Do you have enough people working in these areas that you can function properly, or do you need more people working with you? Jim?
Well, the thing that treatment court deals with a lot is we seem to have enough agencies that we can contract with for the actual treatment, perhaps in an inpatient facility or intensive outpatient program. The problem that we run into many times is coming back from that inpatient facility, which can be anywhere from 30 days to as long as 6 or 9 months. These people then are in an inpatient facility where they obviously are not working regularly. Because they were in jail before, they lost their job, they don't have housing, the relationship with family may not be repaired yet, so they don't have a house or a home to live in. So the biggest problem that we see from treatment court is housing after the person comes back from an inpatient stay, especially.
Hold that thought. Folks, I'm talking to Judge Ansbury, Jim McMonagle, Assistant DA, and Dr. Angelone. Extremely valuable program, the drug program, mental health court, the drug court, and mental health court. First of all, we want to help people, and of course there's millions of dollars in savings. We come back, what about the people who have been in the program? How are they doing? Are there successes being finished? Number two, what about education? Stay with us. Welcome back to the Sam Lesante Show, folks. Remember, 24/7, ssptv.com. My guest today, Judge Bill Amsbury from Luzerne County, Jim McMonagle, who is the Assistant DA, and Dr. Angelone. We're talking about drug court and mental health court, how we're helping people. A part of your mental health area, you're dealing with the veterans, right?
Correct.
Talk a little bit about that.
We are. A component of our mental health court is working directly with the Wilkes-Barre VA hospital. they have an employee that comes to all of our meetings as part of our team, and they have been referring active cases that are coming back. The majority of our clients are coming back from Iraq. They are full service, fully qualified veterans connected with the VA who unfortunately have found themselves into a legal scenario where they've committed a crime, and we've been able to assist them with gaining the appropriate treatment. Through the VA, a number of these individuals have been diagnosed with post-traumatic stress disorder, and with conjunction of our program and the VA services, we've been able to assist these individuals in obtaining the mental health services that they need. And in fact, we have a graduation coming up on May 16th where we're going to be having our first veteran graduating from our program.
It does my heart good to hear that, because these are young men and women who were not asked, went to serve our country. Same thing with Vietnam. These poor people, these poor veterans that were in Vietnam, didn't ask to be there. The stress that they came back with, and we should do whatever we can to help those people out. I just think it's a fabulous program, and I applaud you for you're working in that area. Jim, successes. Have we had some great successes with this program?
Yes, we have. In addition to the money that was saved that we've already talked about, since the treatment court program began in 2006, we've had 95 graduates. We will probably have about 10 more. So in a little more than 6 years, we've had about 100 graduates go through the program. Of that number, the number that recidivate within 1 year is at a rate of 11%. I think only 3 or 4 people have recidivated, which means committed another crime. Looking out through, in a 3-year period of those 95 people, only about 8 or 9 people have been rearrested. So our recidivism rate is far better than even the national averages for drug courts, which I think hovers around 25 or so percent of recidivism. So our program has been successful, not even from a financial standpoint, but we have successfully broken that revolving door of addiction, committing crime, addiction, committing crime, addiction, committing crime.
That sounds so good. The good judge, education.
The revolving door, but first of all, let me just say this. What is important and what helps our treatment team is the community-based agencies, community counseling, Catholic social service, and those who provide inpatient care for us. Education is why we're here today, and it's one of the roles that we are to play. You have the National Drug Court Judicial Bench Book in front of you. You will see in Chapter 3 that education is one of the requirements that we are to do. I love the opportunity because there's people like you who allow us to come on TV, take your time, and at least reach out to our community and tell them what's going on. I want them to understand that there are 2 sides to this. Last week we had a person who wasn't successful. She came back, she was sentenced to 20 to 40 months at the state correctional facility. I don't want anybody to think that this is a panacea. It's a lot of hard work. But the only way you're going to know about what we do if people like you give us the forum to do that.
Well, it's really, I think this is great, and it makes me feel good. I'm sure the viewers out there to know that there's help. I think most people have been affected either for friends or families that fell prey and got involved. And like you said, when they go to court, say, well, you should have seen Sammy before. Sammy was such a great guy. He just, boom, something unfortunate happened to him. Now let's get him back in the fold. And I think this is great. Yes, Judge.
Let me just say one thing. On May 16th, we're having a graduation program for both treatment teams at the Luzerne County Courthouse. And I want the citizens of Luzerne County to appreciate how important this is, because we have support of the Pennsylvania Supreme Court. Our guest speaker on May 16th will be Associate Justice Seamus McCaffrey of the Pennsylvania Supreme Court. He is the overall supervising judge on the Supreme Court for every treatment team.
And a great guy. He's a great guy.
Absolutely.
Let me put a website up for you, folks. Website is mhmr.luzerne.pa.us. Phone number to call, 825-9441. Judge Ansbury, Jim McMonagle, and Dr. Anzalone, thank you so much for coming. It was my honor to have you on the show.
Thanks for
and
having me.
keep up
Thank
this
you,
great
sir.
work. Okay, we'll see you next time on the Sam Lesante Show, folks.